I'm not even saying run the ball more, but the Bills need a successful running game. I don't care how good your passing attack is. You have to have some semblance of a running game, something to keep defenses honest. No one can be one-dimensional. Even if that one dimension that you have is awesome, odds are at some point, someone is going to match up well with that one dimension. And when that happens, what do you do? What's been the theme of this offseason for me on the show? Rock, paper, scissors. You need to be able to throw rock, paper, and scissors. Throwing only one of those or throwing only two of them limits your odds of consistent and sustainable success, especially come playoff time when your opponent has an entire season's worth of film on you that they can use to break down and identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your tendencies. You need to be able to match up no matter the opponent, no matter the situation. You need to have multiple options to victory. I don't care how good your one dimension is. If you're an awesome running team, fantastic. You need to have a passing game. If you're the Colts, good for you. Your running attack is beautiful. You better hope Matt Ryan can throw the ball and you guys can pass. And it's the same thing for the Bills, just like it's the same thing for the Chiefs. Your passing attack is fantastic. Cool. You need to be able to run the ball. Today's NFL defenses are mainly pass defending defenses. Nickel is base. We know this. They're the days of teams coming out and running the majority of their defensive sets and reps with three linebackers isn't how today's NFL is played. Nickel is base. Teams like to give light boxes. Your defensive tackles are more one-gapping pass rushing penetrators in the mold of Aaron Donald than they are two-gapping run stuffers like Vita Vea. Although Vita Vea can rush the passer a little bit. He's a freak and he's fantastic. But the moral of the story is defenses are built to stop the pass because, again, that's what governs today's NFL. And in that vein, defenses are trending towards too high safety coverages post-snap and too high safety shells pre-snap as the new means of defending the pass. It's something we've talked about multiple times on this show. But the crux of it all is these defenses that modern NFL defenses are trending towards, they are designed to disguise coverages and limit explosives from the offense in the pass game. The idea is you are keeping everything in front of you. You are choking passing windows and throwing lanes. You are funneling ball carriers to the kill zone and rallying and tackling. You are trying to make the offense be patient and make them execute over and over to beat you rather than hit chunk plays. Okay, now how does this connect to the run game? Oh, that's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. As an offense, those two high defenses, right? And especially for the Bills, they're getting two high defenses post-snap, and they're also getting a lot of zone coverage defenses. Defenses are, unless you're the New England Patriots in Week 16 in New England, you are not really playing the Buffalo Bills in either single high or man coverage because the Bills feast on that. Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie on those overs and those crossers, it's a problem. Dawson Knox is a matchup problem for second-level defenders in a variety of ways. Josh Allen, his ability to run and scramble. You don't want to get caught in man coverage with the Buffalo Bills because, again, this is basic. If you're man covering someone and your man goes downfield, you turn your back to the quarterback, you get away from the line of scrimmage. If Josh Allen breaks contain, he suddenly has all this green pasture to roam and run like he has for his first several seasons in the NFL. So when you've got these two high coverages and you've got zone coverage coupled with it, defenses are trying to keep everything in front of them. They're not trying to get beat over the top. They're trying to limit the explosives. They're trying to limit that vertical presence that an offense has. So as an offense, you can double down on that and you can beat those coverages by finding a way to get over the top of them. Think, as an example I continue to use for this because it's readily available for Bills fans. Think of Gabriel Davis in the divisional round against the Chiefs, that 75-yard touchdown. Chiefs are in a too high look. Juan Thornhill is one of those split safeties. He hesitates a little bit and comes up as Dawson Knox comes on a bender in the middle of the field. Gabriel Davis gets behind him, over the top, 75-yard touchdown, boom. So you can attack where defenses are now trying to protect. They're trying to limit those explosives. They're trying to limit that vertical game. Cool. Attack it harder. Double down. Just going to go harder. Like, basically think of it like Michael Scott when Pam tells him to stop dating her mom. And he says, you know what? I'm just going to date her harder. You double down. You date her mom even harder, right? Go for that vertical. Try and split those safeties. Try and get over the top. Or you can force those defenses out of those too high looks. One of those ways is by running them out of it. And when I say running them out of it, I literally mean running the football so that they have to bring a safety down into the box. And now you have a single high safety look, right? Which is also why 12 personnel is potentially exciting, because if you have 2 tight ends, the defense increases the odds that the defense may have to walk a safety down to match up with that look. But I'll continue. When you get those single high looks, again, whether it's zone, whether it's man, the Bills feast on those looks. Those overs, those route running, precision routes from Stephon Diggs, the speed, the acceleration of the Bills wide receiver grouping, and the ability of Josh Allen to hit those routes and feast on those routes, the Bills take apart single high coverage, right? And if you run the ball well, you increase the odds that the defenses can't use those split safety looks because they want to walk a man down around the line of scrimmage. You increase the odds that, we can't go with a light box because they can run the ball. You also put defenses in a bind because, again, so many teams use nickel defense as their base defense. Not a lot of teams have a nickel corner that can play the run like Taron Johnson or Gardner Johnson in New Orleans, or even Mike Hilton in Cincinnati. I would put Taron and Gardner Johnson ahead of Hilton in that regard. Not a lot of teams have a nickel who can play the run like a linebacker with that type of tenacity and ferociousness coming forward. So you also put them in a bind based on their personnel package and based on their personnel alignment on defense. There's a lot of positives that start to result. And that run game helps attack the way the defenses are trying to play offenses now. You can also, as another way, you can hit little check down passes underneath and take advantage of the vacated space from second level defenders in coverage. Again, much like the Bills did in week 16 in New England, Hightower and Bentley are just bailing to drop deep into coverage, and they're vacating that underneath, and Josh Allen hits the top of his drop and boop, just checks it right down to Devin Singletary. And again, open green grass for him just to attack in space. Either way, what you want to do is you need to be able to stretch defenses vertically by either pushing the top off or making the intermediate defenders having to come up. You want to create that separation and be able to attack and make the defenses account for as much as possible. So again, that's why that running game is partially important. Defenses now feel like they have not a cheat code, but a potential answer to the pass game. They feel that, and I'm not going to get into the fronts because I don't want to get too off topic here, but they feel like from a coverage perspective, it's go with 2 high shells pre-snap and either stay in those 2 high coverages post-snap or spin a safety down, disguise your coverage, and play games on the back end in order to limit those explosive plays, right? And it all stems from those 2 high looks. But if you're a good running team, if you can run the ball, you're either going to force them to walk a safety down or you're going to feast on light boxes and nickel personnel as you run the ball and get easy yards and chunk plays in the run game, which is a nice, easy thing. And here's a fun fact that I want to mention. There's no doubt that today's NFL is a passing league. In order to be a Super Bowl contender, realistically, you need a good quarterback. You need a top-tier quarterback, or at worst, in that second tier. Then you have the rules of today's NFL, where it's so heavily skewed towards favoring and giving an advantage to the offense. Then you have the athletes that are coming up, and the top athletes now seem to be wanting to play quarterback and wide receiver in these skill positions. So all these things that are happening from, throughout the ranks coming up to the NFL itself, it favors a passing league, it favors a passing attack. When you're looking at DVOA, which is something I very much subscribe to, and in case people don't know, I wanted to bring it up. DVOA basically, it's an efficiency metric. It measures a team's efficiency by comparing success on every single play to a league average based on situation and opponent. It's a method of evaluating teams, units, and players. And basically, this is directly from Football Outsiders, who came up with DVOA, and I love it. It takes every single play during the NFL season and compares each one to a league average baseline based on situation. So it's as close to being an equal metric for all because of what it takes into. It's holistic, it's fantastic, it's efficiency-based. I love it. When you're looking at DVOA, the 2021 top 10 DVOA offenses were all in the top 13 for passing DVOA, which makes sense, right? The best offenses usually have a good passing game in today's NFL. That makes sense. That tracks. But what's also interesting to note is of those top 10 DVOA offenses, 7 of them also had a top 10 rushing DVOA. And those that didn't have a top 10 rushing DVOA didn't have one lower than 14th. And furthermore, The top 14 DVOA offenses all had a top 16 rushing DVOA. So the best offenses that you think of, yes, they are governed by the pass. That is their MO, but they all have successful running games. And just to bring it up, I wanted to bring up the top 5 passing DVOA offenses, right? So we're looking at them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, first in passing DVOA, 5th in rushing. The Green Bay Packers, 2nd in passing DVOA, 8th in rushing. The Kansas City Chiefs, 3rd in passing DVOA, 10th in rushing. The Los Angeles Chargers, 4th in passing DVOA, 14th in rushing. And the San Francisco 49ers, 5th in passing DVOA, 4th in rushing. 4 of the top 5 passing offenses for DVOA had top 10 rushing attacks as well. That goes to speak to the multiplicity, the versatility, as Kendall says. Let's be right there, Kendall. Kendall says it sounds like running the ball is still important. Kendall's smart. Kendall gets it. Running the ball is still important. It doesn't mean that, and I think this is where a lot of people get lost with it. That doesn't mean, well, you need a 50-50 split, or you need 60-40, or you need 70-30. There's no specific ratio, which we're going to get into in a minute. But running the ball is still very much important. The best offenses, yes, they are led by good passing games. But those teams with the best passing games also have good rushing attacks. And how do those two things go hand in hand? Well, let's take the 2021 Buffalo Bills into account, since this is a Buffalo Bills podcast that covers a lot of things that are also non-Bills related. Think about the first 10, 11, 12 weeks of the year for the Buffalo Bills. Think about the times when the Bills struggled the most. Think about the second half of the Pittsburgh Steelers game. Think about the atrocity that was the game in Jacksonville. Think about the times when things just looked hard for the Bills, like there was just a lack of rhythm, like they weren't clicking. Think about those times. And I would bet those times came when the Bills did not have a strong semblance of a running game. Now, think towards the back end of the year. Granted, opponent comes into play here, but think of the back end of the year. Think of the second half of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game and forward. What started happening that the Bills' offense started clicking and things became easier for Josh Allen in the passing attack? They had a gap scheme running game with Devin Singletary, and teams had to respect the run. The Bills run a lot of RPO, so all of a sudden you have that run action in the backfield. Now second-level defenders are creeping up a little bit. You're going play action, and yes, you don't need a good running game necessarily to have a good play action game, but having one helps. And all of a sudden in the back end of the year, the Bills are going play action, and linebackers and safeties are getting sucked up, and they're getting beat over the top. Teams are having a game plan potentially a little bit more to stop the running game. The Bills are getting some good looks against light boxes, and they're taking advantage of it. You don't need to be a run-first team in the NFL. And probably by all, accordances right now, you probably shouldn't be. You need a good running game. Do not get lost in the prolific nature of Josh Allen and the Bills' passing offense, and do not let it lead you down the path of you thinking the running game is not important. It very much so is. Again, just to drive that home, the top 5 passing offenses for DVOA, 4 of them all had a top 10 rushing attack. 3 of them were in the top 8. 2 of them were in the top 5. That's not a coincidence. That's regularity. Think of these top offenses, the best offenses that you think of. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a good running game. Think about their Super Bowl run 2 years ago when playoff Lenny for Leonard Fournette was a thing because Leonard Fournette was running the ball down people's throats. Think about what the Green Bay Packers have, even with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. You have Aaron Jones. You have A.J. Dillon. Think about those offenses. Think about what the Chiefs did last year, where they revamped their entire offensive line with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and had some more effectiveness with their running game to try and take the heat off Patrick Mahomes, because what the Chiefs and Bills are, it's very interesting how much of a parallel you can draw between the two in terms of their journey and trajectory as offenses, in terms of their success and the struggles and hurdles they faced and their potential ways to course correct for that. And then again, the San Francisco 49ers, who I think a lot of people would be surprised to see that they were 5th in passing DVOA, despite the fact that everybody loves to knock Jimmy G, but we know their rushing attack. They're potentially the most balanced offense, being 5th in passing DVOA and 4th in rushing DVOA. They're just a monster of multitude on offense. The running game is still important. Do not lose sight of that for anything. And the Bills, again, they don't need to be a run first team. I'm not saying that, but they need to be effective enough in the running game to be multiple, to make defenses and second level defenders have to honor the run action in an RPO, to make linebackers come up on play action. Yes, even though a good run game isn't necessary for an offense to run play action, but it most definitely helps. You need the run game to be effective enough to win on third and short when the defense knows there's a high probability of a run coming, or to be able to function in bad weather games that don't just happen in Buffalo, that happen in the playoffs. Look at the good teams in the AFC. If the Bills get the 1 seed, which is fantastic, everybody knows what the weather in Buffalo is, but look at the other good teams in the AFC. Cincinnati, similar weather to Buffalo. Kansas City, similar weather to Buffalo. Baltimore, not as similar, but could be not great on some days. The Chargers are the only one really like a good teams in the AFC where you don't have to worry about weather because 1, they're in California, 2, they're in a dome, so you don't have to worry about anything. You're going to need that. That's why the running game is part of playoff football and all that. But regardless of that, you need to be able to have that chess piece, that multiplicity in your back pocket. The Chiefs didn't go to it enough in the second half against Cincinnati in the AFC Championship. What happened? They lost. The Bengals just started dropping 8 and rushing 3, something that Eric Turner and I said the Bills should do when we broke down keys and tendencies leading up into that divisional round game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's spilled milk. No sense crying over that, although I still do cry because I'm still very upset. But nonetheless, you need that pivot, right? And also, I want to bring up something that Josh Allen said because I found it very relevant to this topic. When Josh Allen was asked what he wants the offensive scheme to look like under Ken Dorsey, Josh Allen said he wants the offense to be wide in scope. He said late in the fourth quarter, you got to be able to run the ball when they know you are running the ball. Timing and spacing in zone defense and guys that can win in man. And I think that's obviously very broad in terms of what it can look like. But you want to be multiple on offense when you're not sure if we're actually handing the ball off, or it could be a play action shot, or it could be a quarterback run. We want to be multiple so that the defense has to think about so many different things. And that comes with reps. It comes with execution and mentality in the run game and in the passing game. From the mouth of your savior and prophet, Josh Allen, for a lot of you who I think genuinely believe that about Josh Allen, that was from an article in The Ringer from Kevin Clark. Really good read. You should take a peek at it. Just dropped yesterday or the day before, I believe. Even Josh Allen recognizes it. You need to be multiple on offense. That doesn't mean run first. That doesn't mean a set defined ratio, but you need to have it in your back pocket. You need to be able to throw rock, paper, and scissors, because if you throw rock all the time, sooner or later, you're going to come up against someone who can throw paper. And when they throw paper, you need to be able to throw scissors. And if you're still just throwing rock, you're going to lose. Or if they're also throwing rock, you need to be able to throw paper. If not, then you hope your rock is stronger than theirs. But it'd be a lot easier if you could just throw paper. You need versatility. You need multiplicity.